Hey y'all, let's go ahead and talk about points, lines, and planes. A point is a location. It is a dot that you physically cannot see unless you draw it or create it. It has no shape, it has no size. That means you cannot measure it. And it's also zero dimensional. I'll explain what I mean by dimension later on in the slides. So what I mean by point being a location, our classroom is room 207, another classroom is, I don't know, room 205. Notice that those are locations, those are two different points, but we name them or classify them by their room numbers. So in the case of geometry, we have this particular point that you can see on your screen. That is point A. And notice that A is a capital letter. So all I gotta do is, if I want to name this point, I just call it by its capital letter. We can call this point A, or you can call that A. Okay, it does not matter as long as you have that capital letter there when you're naming these points. You can call it point A, or you can just call it A. So now, let's go ahead and move on to lines. So you've already seen what lines are, especially in algebra 1, right? Linear functions. You have a graph, and you have a linear function. It has those arrows on both ends. What do these arrows mean? Well, they mean that they extend towards infinity. It's never stopping. So yeah, it's a straight path and extends in two opposite directions with no ends, and it also contains infinite amount of points, and it's also one-dimensional / one direction. Okay, so let's take a look at this picture over here. So in order for me to name this line, all I need are 2 points. So you can see that there's B and C. So in order for me to name this line, you can call that BC, and then you put the line above BC. That's how you name it. That's one way to name this particular line. Now, there is another way that you can name this line. You can call it by its cursive or lowercase letter. You can call this L. You can call this line L, or you can call this line L with the cursive or lowercase letter, right? So 2 ways to name this particular line. Okay, you're probably wondering, what do I mean by it contains infinite amount of points? I only see 2 points on this line. Well, yes, you need at least 2 points on a line, but remember when I said a point is a location, right? So when you have this particular line, well, this right here, of course, is a location, and also this right here is a location. But we cannot neglect the fact that this is also a location. It's just that this dot is not popping out at you, right? So here, that's a location. Here's a location. Here's a location. Here's a location. Again, these particular locations or points are not popping out at you. B and C are. So yeah, that's what I mean by infinite amount of points. Linear function, of course, when you're graphing, you have infinite amount of points. You can pick a point on that graph, boom, there you go, right? Okay, let's go ahead and talk about planes. Now, a plane is a flat surface. Imagine that you have a piece of paper which extends forever in all directions, okay? And it contains infinite amount of points, just like a line, and it's two-dimensional / two directions, okay? So let's take a look at this particular picture. We have some sort of like a rhombus or whatever, or it can be like a square, or I don't know, a rectangle. This is a plane, and in order for me to name this plane, I just need to have 3 points. Well, here's a point, here's a point, and here's a point. 3 points right there. So I can call this plane DEF, or you can just call it plane, that capital letter that doesn't have a point, or it could be a cursive letter, I don't know, G, okay? Maybe it shouldn't be cursive. Maybe it's like italicized or whatever. Maybe it's that. How do you spell italicized? There you go. Plane DEF or plane G. That's how you name this particular plane. So I need to go and talk about what dimensions are. Now, when I'm talking about dimensions, here we have a line. It has 1 dimension. I'm talking about one path, one direction, right? So you're in a cave, you can go left and right. That's one path. But you cannot just fly and go up and down. That's impossible. You're not Superman or anything like that. So that's what I mean by one direction. One path. You can go left and right, or you can go up and down, right? I'm talking about one path. Here, when I'm talking about 2 dimensions, you can go left and right and up and down, right? Like Pokemon. When you're playing Pokemon, I don't know, Emerald, you have a control path. You can go up and down, left or right. You have 2 paths. You have 2 dimensions. You have 2 directions, and that's what I mean by that. So, yep, that's points, lines, and planes, and those are the ways that you can name these things here. Okay. Moving on, let's talk about what a line segment is. So a line segment is basically a line, except it just doesn't have those arrows on both ends, right? It has those dots, meaning that they stop there. It has 2 endpoints. It stops at those endpoints. Looking at this picture over here, it's fixed, right? It stops here and it stops here, boom. So all I have to do in order for me to name this particular line segment, I just use those endpoints. I can see that there's A and B, and I just draw a line just like that. Boom, you're done. Or you can call this BA. Boom, you're done. 2 ways to name it. Just make sure that line segments, they are fixed. They have 2 endpoints. And in order for me to name it, I use those endpoints and put a line above it to represent that this is line segment AB or line segment BA. Okay. Array, it has 1 endpoint. I'm sorry, that should be 1 endpoint, and it extends forever in the other direction. So this is basically a line and a line segment that created a baby right here, ray, right? So in order for me to name this ray, I start with the endpoint and then move my way up. So this particular picture, I have C and D. I start with the endpoint, which I did over here, and then right after that, I put D. Now, what do I put above? Well, I just need to put I'll put a line, and then there's that arrow on the other way. Okay, and that's how you name it, and there's just one way to name it. Okay. Things that I need to talk about are collinear points. Now, collinear points are points on the same line. So I have these points A, B, C, and these points are on the same line, and we can say that A, B, and C are collinear, okay? Coplanar points are points on the same plane. So the same idea, like collinear points are points on the same line. Coplanar points, they are points on the same plane. So I have my plane over here, and I can call this A, B, and C. Notice that these points are on the same plane. So we can say that A, B, C are coplanar. These are coplanar points, okay? Moving on, let's go ahead and talk about the intersection of lines and planes. Remember, the intersection of 2 or more geometric figures is the set of points that they have in common. Sorry, I'm making typos here, that they have in common. Okay, so if I have this particular picture over here, I have 2 lines, and they intersect at a particular point, right? So we have line L, and then we have line M. And these lines intersect at exactly 1 point. What is that intersection? Well, we see that they intersect at a point P. So what do we call that? We can call that P, or point P with that capital letter. Remember the capital letter and when we're naming points. Next thing, we have 2 planes that intersect in a line. What is the intersection of the 2 planes? So, yep, we have those 2 planes over here where they intersect at a particular line. So we see that we have plane B and also plane A, and they meet at a certain, I guess you could say, line right over here. Well, this line, that lowercase letter, is going to help me, so that is where the intersection happens. It happens at line R. Okay? Now, this is a different scenario. We have a line and a plane and it intersects somewhere. What is the intersection of the line and the plane? Okay, so we can see that we have line, I guess you can say line QS, and then we have plane T over here, okay? So they intersect at a certain point. They meet over here in the middle, which we can call that point S. Okay. So again, intersection, it means that they meet somewhere, they have a point, they have point or points in common. All right, last part of the video, let's go ahead and start naming things. We're gonna practice naming things. We have a figure on the right. It says name a line that contains point A. So looking at the figure on the right, let's go find point A. Point A is right here in this line. So point A is in this line. So how do I name this? There's so many ways that I can name it. Okay, let's go back and take a look what a line does, or how do we name a line? Well, we need 2 points, or we need 2 points, or we can call it by that cursive or lowercase letter, right? So going back, we need at least 2 points. You can call this, you can take these two, you can take 2 points from this line. We can call it AB. And you draw the arrows on top of it, or the line with the arrows on top of it, or you can call this BC and put the line above it, or you can call this AC and you put the line above it. Now remember, I said you need to pick 2 points. That's it. Any 2 points, and you just name that line. You're good. There's so many ways that you can name this line. All right? Okay. There's one more. Don't forget that we can, that this cursive L is next to that line, right? So we can also call this line L. Okay. Number 2, what is another name for line M? So let's go ahead and find where line M is. Line M is right here. And in order for me to name this line, I need 2 points again. So we can call that BD with the line above it. And there you have it. And that's pretty much it. There's nothing else I need to do. Or actually, you can call this DB with the line above that. Okay. Name a point. This is number 3. Name a point not on AC. Name a point that's not on AC. Well, here is AC, line AC, and a point that's not on AC, well, D and also E, right? So we can say D or E. Number 4, it says, what is another name for line L? So here's line L. And we've basically answered this question. We can call this AB, line AB, or line BC, or we can call that AC. Okay, many ways to name that particular line. Number 5, name a point not on line L or line M. Okay, so where's line L? Line L's here. And then line M is right here. Name a point not on the line L or line M. Well, we can see that there's a point outside of those 2 lines, which is just line E. Or sorry, not line E, point E. So that's my answer, point E. Okay, 6. Line AB is in plane Q. So this right here is just telling me, okay, how do we draw these things? Okay, so this right here, I have plane Q, and it has to have that capital letter, right? And there is a line AB. All I have to do is I just draw a line just like so. I have to have those 2 points, A and B, and that's pretty much my answer, okay? Line ST intersects AB at P. So all I have to do is, since I'm dealing with 2 lines and they intersect at a point P, well, here's line ST, and here's another line. It has to intersect, which means that it meets at a common point. So we can call this AB, and it meets at this particular point P. Okay? Point X is collinear with points A and P. So, collinear means that they are points on the same line. So I have this line over here, and I know that A is here, and P is there, and also X because it's joining with those two other points on that same line, right? So there's a line, and it has those points on that particular line. Number 9, point Y is not collinear with points T and P. All right, so let's go ahead and think about this scenario. So I have 9, and we have T and P. So I assume that points T and P are going to be on the same line, but Y is not on that line because they are not collinear, so it has to be outside. Okay. Lastly, number 10, it says line L contains point X and Y. Well, we know that line L is just another way, that cursive L is just another way of naming a particular line. So I have a line, and that cursive L is right next to that line, and it contains the point X and Y. So I write X and Y, and that's it. That's my answer. Okay? A little confusing. Hopefully that if you watch the video again, you're able to understand it. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and let me know. Toodles!